Today, we're talking with Ian of Austin, who's a content creator and elite agent here at Real Broker, which means that he's in the top 10% in terms of production of all the agents at this company. We're going to be picking his brain about his social media strategy and what he does to generate leads in his own business. Ian, how you doing today?
Man, I'm fantastic. I'm here in Austin, Texas. I always say Austin. I'm just in the outskirts, but Austin is known as a place that has tons of fun, tons of people moving here. The market's a little up and down, but it's beautiful outside, and I've got a lot of deals going on. So I'm great.
I love it, man.
Great.
I love it. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive in, man. What do you think are like the top 3 sources of business for you?
All right. I'm going to start off by, I don't like the term social media specifically because there are all these lanes within social media. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to say I actually get a lot of leads from YouTube. I get a lot of leads from Instagram, and I get a lot of leads from Google, my Google business profile. It's not really that. It's actually Google local guides is more what it is, which is kind of unheard of in real estate.
Yeah, well, let's start there. I know YouTube, Instagram. I'm still learning. Google local services. Like, yeah, I do know that's a new one. Is that a paid thing or is that all organic?
No, it's not. So the way I would equate this to is when people are searching for you or searching for something and you come up, it's brand recognition. But there's a way to do it free. So I actually had an interview with Jason Pantana, who works with Tom Ferry, talking about just this one topic. So I'm going to give you an example. If someone is looking for, we have a builder called DR Horton in our area. Yep. If someone's looking to go to DR Horton and they're going to Google Maps, they might see a bunch of pictures and videos and stuff like that about the community, right? Before they click to call. Well, if they see pictures and they see some guy standing there like this, and that guy happens to be me, and instead of a picture, it's actually a video that says, hey, I just want to let you know that I love this builder, but there are a couple of things that I think that I can help you with. I'm a realtor here in the local Lawson area, would love to represent you if you're getting ready to walk into this DR Horton community. Give me a call. I can be there in 15 minutes. Talk to you real soon. Boom. And then leave the number or something like that, right? And then that actually sits, and this is a little manipulative, but it actually sits on the builder's search on Google.
Wow. So wait, so did you attach that to their Google business profile?
Well, it's to the location. It has nothing to do with their profile. It's the location. It's almost the equivalent of tagging somebody on Facebook and they were never at your event. You're like, I don't really like that. But depending on how it's played, I'm contributing to their business. I'm starting off with a compliment sandwich.
Dude, I love that. That's like a new strategy. I've never heard that before. And that's the kind of thing that somebody could be the first mover to do something like that. And in like 5 years from now, there's probably gonna be 15 agents, 20 agents trying to do the same thing.
So I've been doing this for like 6 years and I have 140 million views on my photos and videos just on Google Maps before it was merged and all that. So like nobody knew about this.
What, 140 million views?
Million. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
140 million views, free exposure for your business completely organically, just by hacking Google and Google Maps.
Yep.
I love it. So tell me more. So you go to Google Maps and you like look up the DR Horton and like that location, it gives you an option like add video, add photos.
Yeah. So we're in Texas. We have a lot of new construction communities.
Yeah.
And this just goes across the board. There's so many gaps when you're searching for information about any kind of business, right? And that community, DR Horton, might have a community called Sonterra in Gerald, which is a suburb of Austin, Texas, right? They will create, or someone will create it because you have to have an address. So Google will create that address. It'll automatically have a business profile. There will be one picture of somebody that took a picture of the front of it and uploaded it, and then nothing else. And I'm like, this is incredible. And if there is no picture or no information, guess what? As a local guide, I can create that. Right? Because I can say, hey, this business isn't registered, but it needs to be. People need to be able to find it. And so I can actually be first to market. This is terrible, but I could be first to market before the builder even establishes their address, and then they can come in and claim the profile and all that. But my video is already there.
That's amazing. I love that. And is that because, so I know Google does have the local guide thing where you can level up, you can earn badges. Do you have to be like a certain level with that, or have to be an established local guide, you think?
Here's what I think happens. So I am the top, I don't know if I'm the top, but I am top 1% in all of Austin for local guides. I'm at level 9, which is pretty good, I think, right? That obviously I have quite a few views and shares and reviews and all that. What I think happens is because I'm so high as far as my level goes, they prioritize and they don't even verify when I post something now.
Yeah, they're like trusted. They trust you at this point.
Yes, yeah, like a trusted advisor. I've been invited to events and they've sent me socks and stuff, and I don't use them, but or go to them. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And I've ran into a couple people that are local guides or send them messages on Instagram. And I'm like, oh man, I love this and the way you do that. And that it actually translates over to a lot of other content, which I can talk about later.
Yeah. Now, is that connected at all to your Google business page?
So the fun thing is I kind of had this epiphany that once Google started buying up a lot of these different services and rebranding, remember when it was Google and then it was Alphabet? I was there for that. When I heard that, I was like, oh, they're going to start branching out and doing all sorts of fun things. So while I didn't have any direct knowledge of that happening, I thought to myself, okay, they own YouTube, they own Waze, they own Google Maps, they have Google business profiles. There's got to be a link. They own Blogger. If I focus on these services and I do well at one or two, they should all merge together at some point, right? Because it's all the same account. And it doesn't matter if it's a year, 2 years, 4 years from now, they're all going to keep it together as long as they don't sunset that product. And so they ended up taking Google business profiles and integrating it into Google Maps. So I basically started off with a cheat code or a handicap, essentially.
I love it, man. Look at you hacking Google.
Hacking it on accident. On accident. Don't put that out there.
I love it, dude. Okay, I'm looking into this. I may just have to do this myself. So let's dive into another Google product. You mentioned that YouTube is one of your top 3 sources of leads, which I love hearing. I'm a big fan of YouTube.
I know you are.
Tell me your strategy with YouTube. What kind of content are you creating? What kind of call to actions are you having? What kind of success are you seeing with that?
I think the best way to say this is YouTube ends up being a place where people can go and kind of dive into your world and get to know who you are and spend time with you without actually being there with you, right? They can put you on pause, like a lot of people wish they could do with their partners or something, you know? So I've met so many clients that have listened to hours of my content that will say something like, oh, I already know this. I already know this. You've already taught me this. I just wanted you to help me because I know how you treat your people, or I think I know how you treat your people, or I like you, or I like your vibe. In fact, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I'm in Texas, so I'm allowed to say this because I live in Texas. I was at a gun range last night, and there was another gentleman there, and he looks at me. He goes, "I watch you all the time, man." And I'm sitting there with a couple friends, and there are other people around. I was like, "Oh, cool,
Isn't
man.
that cool, man? Getting recognized in public like that, especially in front of your friends."
Yeah, because we're even though we're a dense population, I'm going to tell you a hack on YouTube that I use, by the way, which I think falls in line with this. So, but yeah, he was like, "Oh yeah, and I've got this many subs on YouTube, and I think we should do this, and I think you should do." I was like, "Yeah, this is great." So we're talking. He rides motorcycles around, and I was like, "I ride motorcycles," so we already had this connection. He was like, "Oh, I know, and I know about your dogs," and I was like, "That's a little creepy, but cool." And so he actually gave me. It's so funny. He gave me his business card, and so now we're connected. And as he was walking away, he was talking to the owner of the range or somebody at the counter of the range. He's like, "Oh yeah, we're YouTubers together." He didn't say I'm a realtor, which was interesting to me. But that's kind of the point. People are just listening to you for your experience and what you're sharing. They kind of forget what your role is, and they just care that you're there offering them a service and advice. And so with all that, I ended up doing a handful of different podcasts. So I've done one with Jeremy Knight called Real Migos, and we've done that for gosh, I think we're going on 3 years now.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
then I have another one called Real Estate Lab, and then I have Agent Podcast. So I've always done these types of things, which build up my channel. And I've also taken some of my other videos from different platforms and put them on YouTube Shorts. You know, that's a no-no, but I've done it.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Very cool, man. I love it. Yeah, you know, I'm reminded of something Ken Pozak said that, you know, it gets him excited to realize that he's a media company that just so happens to sell real estate.
Yes.
Like you're a media company for the Austin market, and like you could sell car insurance or plumbing services. You could sell anything. Like once you have that audience, there's any way. Real estate just happens to be like one of the most profitable things that you can sell, though.
Yeah,
so I love that, man.
It's funny because I look at the YouTube check, and I'm like, no, but people think that when we're putting stuff out on YouTube that we're making all this, and you know, don't get me wrong, some people are making a lot more. You might be making like a really good amount, but I'm not making that much off of YouTube, but I'm doing really well from the amount of clients that come. Yeah. And when the clients come in, they are ready to go. There is no qualification. It's almost like they're qualifying themselves. Huge. I would take one YouTube lead over 10 of any other type, except for maybe direct referrals from a friend.
Yeah, it is like the highest quality lead. And you're right, like a repeat client, direct referral from a past client, like that is also like on the same level as this. And it makes your life so much easier, so much less stress, less, you know, following up with 20 people just to get one deal out of it. It really is like the best source of leads, man. And what do you think, what have you found to be the most effective call to actions in your videos?
You know, it's really funny that this is something that a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people about this specifically, and I listen to people and I watch like I've met Sean Cannell and listened to him and Roberto Blake and obviously you, Christina Small, like just all these people that have been in the space for a long time. And I don't use call to actions.
Jeremy Knight's the same camp as that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and so Jeremy, this is important. So Jeremy and I actually we're both leveraging Austin. We're in different markets. I'm in North and he's South, right? So I actually have a faster growth market than he does, which is good. So, but yeah, because of that was a great partnership. But yes, we talk a lot about not using as many call to actions because it seems so salesy. We don't talk about our names, all that sort of stuff. So like I did with this, oh, I don't even have my label there, but I'll often, whenever I'm in a podcast, I'll just have my name at the bottom, but I'll have it as a ubiquitous branding name. So that way, if they're looking for me on Google or on Instagram or on TikTok or any of those, it's all the same name.
Yeah.
And that becomes the call to action. Who I am becomes the call to action. Me saying, oh, oftentimes if I'm working with a client, this is something that I direct them towards, or this is how I consult my clients. That is the call to action. And it becomes like this subterfuge that we're working on. I think it works out a lot better than saying, you need to call me because I'm a realtor in this area and I know better than you. That's terrible. You wouldn't want that done to you, right? So.
Right. I love that, man. I love that kind of sneaky non-call to action, call to action. Like, hey, I recently had a real estate client that I helped buy a home in this exact neighborhood, or this is what I did with one of my past clients right here. So just kind of casually sneaking that in, like, hey, I'm a real estate agent.
Oh, yeah.
I love it, man. Very cool. All right, let's dive into Instagram. This is the platform that I am dabbling in now. I'm the least experienced with Instagram. What is your strategy on Instagram? What kind of content are you focused on for? Now, you said you actually generate leads from Instagram. So are people discovering you from your Instagram content, or you think they're discovering you from YouTube and then reaching out to you on Instagram?
Okay, this is really funny. So I actually have far more followers on TikTok than on any of the other platforms, but if you look at the demographics of the people that are using these platforms, realtors have moved from Facebook to Instagram, right? People who are like almost self-educators or knowledge, people that crave knowledge are on YouTube. And then TikTok are people that just kind of want to have fun. And that there's an age demographic that goes with it too. So I bring this up because it's relevant. Instagram ended up being the place where so many realtors started following me. And I didn't want that. And I was like, that wasn't the point of me doing what I was doing. But that has turned into so much business. So it started off where I would, I think my most popular videos were different transitions and edits. And then I started doing things like backflips. So I would do a backflip on the front of a house and then I'd land and I'd be inside of a house. Sounds ridiculous, but it was simple. It was scalable, repeatable. I mean, as long as I'm doing backflips, it was, right? I'd have to go to each house. But the other thing is I didn't say anything. I never had to say anything. Right. So I could just do it over and over and over. And it was always that expectation. And it was a built-in hook. Well, what happened is so many agents and people started seeing that. And so people would share it. So I ended up getting a lot of shares from that. But then agents would start reaching out and directly sending me referrals. And it goes to this adage that I've heard a few people say. There's one person, the president of Real Broker, Sharon Srivatsa, he said something like, being famous is way better than being good. Like I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said. And I thought, so I can walk into a room, a conference, generally Banff doesn't count, but I can walk into a conference of, I don't know, 1,000, 4,000, 5,000 agents. And most people will be like, oh, you're the guy that does the backflips. And I'm like, well, I'm actually a pretty well-producing realtor in Austin, Texas. But yeah, I also do the backflips, sure. Because it was something that stuck out. That's an easy like mental hook that nobody else is doing. Right. And so all these realtors, they're like, I don't know anybody. I know one person in Austin. His name is Ian of Austin. I've had people call me Austin. They don't even know my name is Ian. But they also know I'm the guy that does backflips. Yeah. And that sometimes I say, I actually sell houses pretty well, or they'll see my numbers. And so they'll send me direct referrals. I probably have 6 in escrow right now that are referrals from other agents across the country.
Wow. That's amazing.
Insane. And I'm very blessed and appreciative of it. And I'm not even saying anything on these videos. But then I might turn that into a class or something where it brings people into my sphere.
I love it, man. There's a saying in YouTube that different is better than better.
Ooh,
so doing something different to make you stand out is better than, hey, I'm going to do that same listing video, but try to make it a little bit better. Now you're doing something different. And that's really how you can stand out. And I can't do a backflip. You're not going to see me doing that anytime soon in front of a listing.
That's the thing. My backflips are not good. Like I have a buddy he's been a gymnast his whole life. He used to teach it. And he's like, your backflips are terrible. I was like, I know, but no other realtors are doing it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because if there was, so that allows me to do other things. This is kind of an aside, but collabs. So now I can do these fun things that end up being a collab with another realtor. So I could start as a backflip and then someone else can land inside the house.
Yeah.
So I've done that with a few realtors, and now you can do up to 4. I don't know how I'll do that, but like you can create these relationships digitally a little easier, and now you're hitting multiple audiences at once. And I alluded to the fact that I would talk about a YouTube hack. I'm going to throw this in here. You probably already know it, but whenever I'm doing a podcast, especially if I'm talking for an hour about a particular neighborhood or location, I will use that location for this live stream for the podcast, right? And so if it's at Jinya Ramen Bar in the domain, 1, I say it a lot on YouTube, and 2, I will use that as the location. So that way, I'm hoping that as people are using Google Maps and some of these other services, they'll see that I've done reviews on Jinya Ramen Bar. I've got videos where I've talked about this place, right? And they might even see it in the background, and YouTube hears me talking about it. So all of these things I feel have this cohesive relationship. And then obviously I'll tag Jinya in my Instagram post related to that too.
Yeah.
So
I love that, man. Tell me more about the podcast side of things. So I know a lot of agents that have educational podcasts or other agents. I haven't seen anybody really successfully pull off a podcast for consumers about their local market.
Oh my gosh.
What does your podcast look like, and how do you kind of integrate that?
So remember, I have 2 that are consumer facing. One is with Jeremy. It was Jeremy, myself, and another guy. Here's what happened. Jeremy had a lot of solo videos. I had a lot of solo videos. When we came together, the conversations were better. And so consumers were like, oh, okay, this is good. There's a dynamic there. Yeah. And if you look at it, there are a lot of people that mimic that outside of real estate. And so we just started mimicking it inside of real estate. The reason why that happened is because I already had another podcast called Real Estate Lab. So Real Migos and then Real Estate Lab, where I was doing that with multiple agents across Austin, right? I didn't have the same reach, and the topics were completely different. So on Real Migos, it's mostly news centric. On Real Estate Lab, it was more like interviews and conversations around just random topics, but not necessarily breaking news. But between the two, what would happen is we end up having people that would sit and watch us on either one of the podcasts where they're like, that's our Wednesday night entertainment. We'll put that on the TV and the family will sit and watch. And I was like, seriously, that's weird. It's weird, but people love it because they want to hear what's going on, but they don't want to read. And that's the world we're in. They want the headlines, or they want to be part of the conversation. And so when they're able to hop into your comments and they start building their own little relationships and having this own little community, it's fantastic for them, right? And so people will ask stuff like, oh, what's happening with this community that's going up? Or have you seen this new thing that's happening? Or what do you think of, like, the worst one is something like, what do you think about the interest rates? Do you think Austin's going to crash? Do you think we're in a bubble? All that sort of stuff. That's the normal thing. But it gets into really flavorful stuff. And I haven't told anybody this yet. I'm getting ready to release a video in a little bit. I actually posted on Reddit. So I've been experimenting with Reddit as a lane or a source.
Yeah, it ranks well in Google. You often see Reddit threads on Google.
I posted one, and in less than 24 hours, I have 1,000 comments, and it's all real estate centric. So I'm going to post that on Shorts on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and I'm going to point back to the Reddit thread and see if that kind of helps out. So
I love that, man. Why do you think that it's important for agents to build a personal brand today in 2024?
Oh man, you actually said different is better than better.
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of people don't know who they're talking to or what they're talking about, and so if you're talking to a client and you can't articulate your value proposition, then they're going to pass their own judgments. If you look at somebody like me, I am kind of a nerd. I'm not shy about it. I wear a t-shirt under my other shirt, which creates conversations. I usually wear some kind of crazy shoes. Yeah, right?
A 90s look. I remember doing that in the 1990s, having a t-shirt over top of a long sleeve shirt. I haven't seen anything like that in a while.
Think about who your number one home buyer is right now. What year were they born?
Yeah, probably 1990.
In the 90s. That is by design. Come on, man. And I'm short. So the hat actually came from me being short. I used to get pulled over a lot from riding my motorcycle or driving too fast, one of the convertibles. And I remember a police officer in particular had pulled me over and he gave me this whole thing. He was like, you need to slow down, man. I was like, I know. I'm just having a good time. I like the car. And he was like, all right, I'm gonna let you go with a warning. Nice hat. And he said, nice hat. I was like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard, but I'll take it. And I started hearing that more and more. And I was like, you know what? I'm a short guy. in a big crowded room, that could be a standout feature
Yeah.
because I'm short. And so now if I go to networking events, that's the thing that people can see. Again, by design. You can't see my shoes. You might not be able to see what's on my shirt, but you can always see the hat.
So that's part of your personal brand now. That's one of part of
It
your
became part of my brand. It's on my
icon.
business cards and everything now. Yeah.
Yeah. You
Sometimes
know,
people don't recognize me without the brand or without the hat, which is another thing. Kind of like my last name. You asked me my last name earlier. Nobody knows. My clients don't know my last name. It's fine. They
I
don't
love
need
it.
to because they now go to Google to search for me if they want to find out more. And so now Google sees those spikes in searches for my brand name.
Yeah, even better, man. Yeah, in the book Primal Branding, they talk about how all these like great companies, they have some kind of like iconography. They have these icons that are associated with the brand. And like I kind of realized this. I was like, okay, well, I'm always going to wear a hat too. I want my hat and a beard to be like kind of my iconic features. And same thing, man. You get your hat and kind of like the nerdy side of yourself, and then you've created a brand in Boston rather than just going with your name. I love that.
Ubiquitous across all social medias. So to go back to actually answering your question, I feel like if an agent can create something, can craft a brand. I read this book called 11 Seconds to Pass. It was called Crucial Conversations. But the point of that was there was a quote in that book that said, it takes people 7 seconds to pass 11 judgments. Immediately, people are judging you, despite what they know about you. That's just how society runs. And they're trying to fit you into a box so that they can anchor you and your name and who you are and put you on a societal tier level. They're trying to figure all of that out, which is why they ask questions like, how do you think the weather is? And seeing how you respond, or some kind of colloquialisms. The point of all that is, if you don't give them something, they'll conjure something. And so if you develop your brand, I'm giving people this. This is me. If you don't like it, go somewhere. That's fine. Yeah. Right. But if you do like it, if this gets past your filter, now we can have a conversation, because I'm going to be transparent, because this is who I am. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of agents are so worried about looking like this person and forgetting who this person is.
I think so. I love that, man. I mean, the riches are in the niches, right? Yeah. Maybe you don't be the best real estate agent for everybody, but like for your core people. And it also reminds me of the quote that it's better to be a big fish in a little pond than a little fish in a big pond sometimes, you know?
That is perfect. Absolutely. I love that. Yeah.
I love it. So one of my favorite quotes from Sharon is, in order to do great things, you need to do fewer things. And what he's really talking about is like, you know, you have to focus on like, what is the best ROI of your time? And what he often says is, if you can only do one thing in a day, or work 1 hour a day, what would you do? So what would you do if you could only work 1 hour a day and you want to keep your business going? What would you be doing?
And I want to keep my business going.
Yeah, to some degree.
It's funny.
Let's say outside of showing property, outside of actually doing real estate, you get 1 hour to grow your business. What would you be doing?
That's important. So a lot of people may not know this, but a lot of people within our brokerage should know this or do know this. We have, we're part of a cloud-based brokerage, but we have a tight-knit community. I want to consider myself a cultural ambassador for the Austin area. This is important for a number of reasons. So what I've started doing is tons of local in-person events that bring not just Real together, like not just our brokerage together, but people from all different industries. So I used to be a president of a couple different networking chapters. And then I got out of it because I didn't like the agenda part of it. But what people still need is an excuse to get together, right? And especially realtors, they don't like each other. Not really. But outside of realtors, painters, title companies, movers, they all have people that know people and have friends that need help. Everybody does. I've got a guy who just sold a bounce house business. His sister's buying a house. He's like, oh man, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Right? Like, that's great. So the 1 hour a day would be networking events. So what I'm doing right now is I have a coffee meetup, not coffee and contracts. We call it just Real Cafe, but whatever. I do pistols and properties. That's interesting. Texas. Yeah. That's Texas, right? I've got we do classes. We do, board game night. Board game night's one of my favorites because it gives you a chance to sit with a smaller group of people and have a really good conversation. So I would take that 1 hour a day, break it across the month, and I would probably do a 1 hour event every day, a different type of event that gets different circles or spheres to absorb into mine.
I love it, man. All right, Ian of Boston, if anybody wanted to find you on social, what would they search? How would they find you on social?
Really good question. Let me see. It's not my last name. It's going to be Ian of Boston on any of the platforms. Yeah.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for your time there, man. It's a really interesting conversation.